Good, and take it away, Loren.
Thank you, Morgan. So I don't like to sit, so I'm going to stand up here for a little bit. I am Loren McDonald with Silverpop. This is my 13th Email Insider. Thank you, thank you. And I actually was 6 feet tall, had long hair, and six-pack abs at the very first one. And the other big thing was email was actually spelled with a hyphen back then at the first one. So, what did you say, Ryan? Yes, I am. So respect your elders. So speaking of Ryan and multi-channel, right? Wasn't it just last year we were talking about Moshel here at this conference? So that's a private joke for 10 people. Because of this is my 13th, apparently Media Post likes to give me what they call the most difficult panel of the last two sessions and stuff. So they called me up and said, we have this really awesome session, like we had the social and email one in December, but we don't have any panelists. Nobody actually is doing this stuff, right? But actually we did. We found some great panelists, so we're going to have a great session and talk through this. But I wanted to start off with a couple things, and first going, Stephanie and who came up with this this description here. Email service providers constantly hype their ability to deliver cross-channel campaigns. But where are the examples? Ouch, right? Right? Wow. So I'm going to kind of change the focus a little bit and blame it all on the marketers and the clients, of course, right? But no, seriously, but really I think a lot of what we're going to talk about with the panel is kind of what does it mean, what are the hurdles, where is it going, how are you sort of dealing with all these things about multi-channel marketing. And then actually we're going to do something really state-of-the-art and experiential and kind of in the spirit of multi-channel. So the panelists are actually going to speak to each of you in a different channel. Some of them are going to text, some are going to email their answers, post them on Twitter and stuff like that. So each of you will know who of you is getting it in the right channel. So actually I want to start off with a question to the audience. What the hell does multi-channel mean? Somebody, anybody, tell me, two of you tell me, what does multi-channel mean to you? Anybody? Nobody knows what it means. What does that mean? Using more than one channel. Anybody else? Orchestrating them together coherently. Okay. Well, the magic of Google, right? I actually Googled multi-channel versus cross-channel yesterday and found actually our own Lynn Schneider over here in the group actually came up #1 for a Google search of multi-channel versus cross-channel. And so I kind of reduced down the definition of multi-channel is kind of basically you create a single campaign around a single goal or event and deploy across multiple channels to everyone in your database. So that's kind of one definition of multi-channel. Cross-channel, however, is something like you target people in their preferred channel, right, with a message tailored to the individual in that specific channel. But then the hot buzzword, right, omni-channel. That's all anybody's talking about is omni-channel, which is a new thing, which is something around you communicate across multiple channels with each individual based on their individual preferences and behaviors, but across a seamless consumer experience, right? It's the idea of that where all this is going is this omni-channel idea that actually all the channels throw through kind of a single concept of wherever I am as a consumer, right, I have that sort of seamless, contiguous experience with your brand. So with that, I'm going to, I guess, climb up here. Hopefully my pants won't rip. That's the other part of getting old, right? And introduce our panel. So I'm going to go down the panel, starting with you, Katya, and first explain who you are, who you work for, sort of your context for being on the panel, and then talk about what multi-channel means to you or your organization, or if you define it differently. And we'll just sort of start with that.
Great. So my name is Katya Constantine, and I actually recently joined the Parallels team leading loyalty and email marketing. But previously to that, I've been at brands like Expedia and most recently spent a few years with Amazon leading their efforts around customer acquisition, email for Amazon Instant Video and DVD. And so when we think about multi-channel marketing, I've seen it work in different ways at these organizations. But what has always been consistent is email is at the storefront of that communication path, where it kicks off the promotion and the message that is then carried on through other channels such as social, online, and that's really where kind of email has the strength to kind of bring in that virality. And that's where we see it going through all of these different organizations.
Erin?
I'm Erin Levzow. I'm the Executive Director of Hotel Marketing and eCommerce at Palms Casino Resort. And I agree when you talk about multi-channel. I think the hardest part about multi-channel is that your CEO doesn't see it necessarily. Same with cross-channel. Your CEO doesn't see it. And they always say, well, why didn't I see that message? Well, because you shouldn't receive that message. Because I'm behaviorally targeting you on the right channel, and you don't use your iPhone like I do. So that's, I think, the biggest obstacle we find with those things.
John?
I'm John McMahon. I'm a senior marketing manager at Intuit, so I work on our TurboTax and Quicken brands. One of the big things for us, I think if you're online or on TV or anywhere between kind of February and April, it's hard to miss TurboTax because we advertise extremely heavily, which can be great for awareness. But what we are really trying to do now is make sure we target you in the right channel to get you to use TurboTax versus just target you in every channel, because we only have about 2 months to do it.
John, why don't we stay with you and then we'll come back this way. And now let's sort of break it down a little bit into kind of how Intuit and TurboTax is actually sort of deploying it. So deploying sort of a multi-channel, cross-channel, omni-channel, whatever you guys, and how do you refer to it internally? Do you call it multi-channel? What do you just?
We like to make up our own terms. Right. So we basically call it data-enabled targeting. So we use
data-enabled targeting.
And the information we understand about you and where you are and how you interact with us in different channels to target you. Okay. And then to deliver the offer that you want.
So walk us through a data-enabled targeting program. So actually give us, spend some time and walk us through what that actually looks like. Bring it to life for us.
I will try my best to do that. One of the interesting things about TurboTax, again, is that we're as seasonal of a business as you can be. If you're a good customer, you use this every year and you use this once a year. So then we go dark for a pretty extended period of time because not many people are going to file with us in, even now, 2 weeks after April 15th. What we have is we have a lot of information about you and how you interact with us in the past. We take that data, basically run it through a data management platform. In the off season or now, as we collect all of our data, and as we head towards next tax season, we're able to reach out and find you where you are, right? So we have all of our customer information from last year. We'll match that up with our data management platform, and then if you're on mobile, we're going to serve you a mobile ad that's related to what we know about you from how you interacted with us last year, as well as some kind of predictive modeling for next year to help us make sure we get the right offer in front of you. Does that make?
Yep. And by the way, I'd like to keep this interactive, so please feel free during this to ask questions, interject, comment, hoot, holler, whatever. Erin?
Well, for us, I don't think we refer to it as cross-channel or multi-channel while we're at work because no one would understand what I mean. I mean, like when you asked the question, some of us in this room didn't understand, unfortunately, what we mean. So if I used those words at work, unless I was trying to impress someone, they'd be like, okay, all right, e-commerce girl. For us, it's about finding the right person at the right time in the right place. That's really all it means for us. Right time, right person, right place. And it really goes back to what we were just talking about, the behavior. And then to add to that, you also have to figure out that baseline. And yesterday, someone specifically talked about the baseline you have and finding the incremental. I don't want to hit someone that was going to buy already. That's a waste of my money. That's a waste of my time. So now it's finding that person in the right place, at the right time, at the right moment that needed that ad in order to buy.
Can you walk us through an actual program, maybe, driving somebody to come back?
We use a multi-attribution solution, and with that solution, we track the customer's journey, and it's about that one person and their one journey. And whether that's on SMS, mobile ads, in-app, email, whatever it might be, it's about following them through their journey and giving them that right message. So if you're on, let's say, your mobile device right outside of my property, you probably have a room, hopefully. So you don't want the book your hotel room now message. You want a different message. Now it's figuring out what kind of message that is. If I can go back into our CRM and figure out what I know about you, I'm able to hit you with the right spa message, the right food and beverage message. So then it becomes creating a hierarchy of what do I know about that consumer. The easiest part is that we do know a lot about our consumers. They pretty much give us any piece of information we want, as well as we know who they're in the room with, we know what kind of money they spend at the tables, so we're able to say, like, all right, this is a high roller, we can spend this much money with them. We also know if they frequent a food and beverage establishment. So it's getting them on SMS, mobile, email, based on that information. I mean, the easiest solution is when you go backwards, you can figure out, all right, they've been here this many times, we know this is what they do. We know that they only book off of a PC, so we're only going to send them these type of emails, and then making sure it's responsive when you do.
Awesome. Katya?
Well, I agree with Erin. In the organizations where I've been, when you say multi-channel, it doesn't really resonate. What does resonate is when you describe, these are the different channels that I'm going to be touching the customer, and you'll have internal names for how you're, what you're referencing, and that is kind of how we map that customer life cycle of we want to engage them and bring them awareness, and then get them into a conversion and sharing path. Thinking about examples, one of the programs that we've seen to be successful is targeting customer based on their preference on specific products, and then bringing functionality for them to share that through a social media means and bring virality specifically to that product, and having the program take on a space both started off on email and a conversation continued on in a social sphere. And that has been a very successful approach.
Okay, great. Erin, in the panel, I mean, you talked about sort of CRM and stuff like that. I mean, ultimately, that's sort of the foundation of all of this is, right, is sort of a centralized marketing database, CRM system, behavioral database, whatever you want, a data warehouse, whatever it is. Erin, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to John and Katya. Just sort of talk about, you don't necessarily talk about names of vendors or whatever. If you want to, you can. But just sort of, what do those technologies look like for each of you, and who owns them, and how does it work, and how is it connected with the deployment systems and things like that?
That's a good question. We're actually in the process of building an internal CRM right now that can bring in everything, including your interactions on social media, because how amazing would it be that I knew what Ryan's talking about on his Twitter, so I knew what to give him when he showed up at the casino. But that's something that's in process for us. I mean, currently, I hear folks talk about, like, I just need their email to market them, and I really need to make sure that email's validated. I need 11 fields to market you. So you have to give me pretty close to your firstborn child before I'm even allowed to speak to you. So I have a pretty good handle.
From a legal perspective, right?
Absolutely, from responsible gaming, from everything. So I already start off with a good amount of information, but because of that, it's harder for me to get that information because not everybody wants to give that out. So
I would interrupt because I think that's a great thing. Around, so how are you capturing obviously email address, but you're capturing mobile number, are you capturing Twitter like what are you capturing into that process?
So we capture a lot. We first, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, home phone if you want to give it to us, not that we'll use it. And then you have to confirm your email, you have to tell us your birth date, but you can't just tell us that you're over 21, you have to type in your birth date, all the numbers. Tell us you're over 21 in another checkbox. Tell us that you agree to our terms and conditions and privacy policies. Then you opt in. Then after you opt in, we send you an email to that says, I know you just filled out these 11 fields and clicked these 2 boxes, but are you sure? Are you sure? Was that a joke? And then you have to click a button to say, like, no, I wasn't joking. I'm sure I want to hear from you. Then we can start messaging you. So to get all that information and put it into a CRM, like, we're starting off on the right foot. Now, on the other hand, if you come in and sign up for our Club Palms card, they get all the same information as well. And so we mirror that information together and we put it all into one database. Then we're starting to layer on your social media interactions. I mean, to the point where about 2 years ago, Palms was known for checking clout scores when you checked in, so that we knew, I mean, you kind of want to know who you're putting in what room at a certain point. So when you have all that data, it's really a lot easier to target someone. And then now we're getting to the point where you can take the preferences from what they're doing online and what pages they visited on your website. You then follow them everywhere they're going. You pixel every Facebook page you have out there so that you're gathering that data as well. You know a lot about your customer at that point.
And were you saying, but you're in the process of sort of architecting and even different, bigger?
Yep. So at a certain point, we've grown too big. We don't have a good way to bring that social media functionality in yet, and so that's something we're working on building.
Great, thank you. John?
We're actually quite similar in the gaming and taxes are different, but somewhat similar in terms of the
Thanks for the refund, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for using us. He's one of our best customers, which means we don't advertise to him very frequently at all. But we're quite similar in terms of we have tons and tons of data, and we built that all in-house because most of it is all tax data. So tax data stays internal. There was the payday loan idea yesterday, which is not legal, which I think a lot of people should be kind of happy to hear, is we can't use your tax data to market something that isn't related to your preparing TurboTax now. So we keep all that information in-house in terms of your usage with us, and then we pull in outside information like how are you on Facebook, or are you on Twitter, are you our fan, and those kind of pieces separately, and then push it back out.
And what is that? Is it a CRM system, data warehouse? Like, what is the centralized system that all this data is coming into?
For ourselves?
Yeah.
Numerous systems that we then merge across. So we have...
So TurboTax has one system, and...
we have a few systems internally just because of how much data we do have. And then we'll pull some out and put it into like a marketing CRM database, which we then can use and access for campaigns.
Okay, great. Katya?
Yeah, we're in a similar boat in the sense that, we have our data internally that we capture in a data warehouse environment and use it for targeting for campaigns. And I see that to be consistent with the different companies where I've been, where it's, a focused solution that looks at customer data.
And then it's tied to some campaign management and
Yeah,
other
and it's tied to
deployment
campaign management, the different tools we're using to communicate to our customers.
Okay, great. So now we've sort of talked about what it means to each of the organizations, sort of examples of how they approach it, some of the things they do, kind of where the data lives and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the deeper into sort of the hurdles, the side of the sort of siloed organizations, right? The idea that one of the things that why a lot of companies aren't doing this very well, haven't started, or having challenges, or doing what they want to do is so many of the marketing disciplines reporting to different people. They're in different cities. In a case like Intuit, you have people in different parts of the state and country and everything like that. So, and we'll start with you, John, then of talk about kind of this idea of how do you deal with sort of the siloed organization departments. Everybody has their sort of piece of it, and so then how do you actually deploy this sort of integrated program to each customer, in the channel they want?
Yeah, that's a good question. Historically, TurboTax, if you look at our marketing organization, has been very siloed, but really, really optimized for each silo. So our search, we are very good at search, and we're very good at display advertising. And our email campaigns that I've run, I feel we're really good at those too. But we were really, really optimized per channel. Not necessarily across channels looking at how customers touch each one, but we know each channel was really good at what that channel did. So one of the first things that was important for us to get away from that was to just kind of get a small win across channels. So a year ago we did a test with the Facebook Custom Audience Manager and basically said these are these customers that we want to convert. We matched them up through the Custom Audience Manager and got the exact result that we wanted to get, which is email plus a relevant targeted display ad within Facebook got more people to convert than either of the separate ones. So as soon as we got that kind of data piece saying, hey, this works, we need to now expand it across channels. It got a lot of pace behind it, and then we're able to build to really expand it across all of our channels and outside of Facebook. And now if we're able to identify you on the internet, we're going to target you specifically now.
I've actually been down and done some work with like Mint.com and at Intuit and stuff like that, and so as most people know, there's so many different products and divisions, TurboTax and Quicken and Mint and on and on and on. So you have the challenge of just sort of communicating to Loren McDonald's of the world, TurboTax customers. How does that fit into all of the other products that I might be a user of, like Mint and et cetera? Is there that level of trying to understand me at even, sort of the corporate level, the broader level?
Yeah, so we do have some propensity models in terms of if you use Quicken and TurboTax or QuickBooks and our home and business product, or Mint and our TurboTax Online free product, there is a relationship in terms of your almost loyalty to the brand. As soon as you use more than one of our brands, you're significantly more loyal to us overall. You're more likely to keep using us over and over again, and you're usually a really high net promoter. Again, one of the challenges we have with TurboTax is it is such a seasonal, short business. Like if you're a QuickBooks user, you're doing your accounting all year long. If you're one of us in the room, you're doing your taxes hopefully for about 30 to 45 minutes once a year. So it's a bit of a challenge. We don't necessarily do it as much as we can, but we do understand the relationships between our different brands and customers that kind of use each of our brands.
Great. Erin, I know you had a lot of thoughts on this question.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is the silos, and I think that we still deal with that. And I'd be surprised if there are companies out there who say that we've tackled it and we have no problem. Because the thing is, with each of these silos, everybody's optimizing to something different. Or they're all saying like, well, my channel's working. Well, when you start to look at attribution and you start to look at that customer's journey, you realize we all played a part in it, guys. And everybody's silo wants to take the credit. And so you have the people over here doing their digital advertising, you have the email group, you have the search group, and they're all search is always going, well, we're the last click, so we're the one that matters, right? We're the only one that matters. Well, no, that's not the case. So when we started to tracking our email through our attribution, we were able to see that while someone might have clicked on the email last because it had the best rate in it, it actually was a journey that they took to get there. So everybody kind of deserved a little piece of that pie. I think that's the hardest part to tackle. And then now you hear people talking about Facebook Exchange and why you should be on the Facebook Exchange. Well, guess what? 900 million people are on the Facebook Exchange. They're probably going to get the last credit there, too. You just have to look at all these things with a grain of salt and know that email is a huge part of it. But there's a whole journey that plays a part. And when you start working with those other silos, you start to realize, like, oh, I get it. We can really put together some gangbuster campaigns here when we do it right. So
what has been your secret sauce at Pump? How do you get, direct mail and search and email and everybody to actually work together with this sort of common goal?
So I think, unfortunately or fortunately, we're a very lean team. So we're doing a lot of different things. And that for this, it's very fortunate because we are kind of all the silos in one. I oversee online, mobile, social, digital, the website build, you name it. So when I start to see something that's working over here, we start to move it around. So that helps a lot. I think that's a huge difference between how we have ours set out versus how a lot of corporations are set out. It's the idea of someone told me that their position is the chief digital officer. I was like, that's genius. I want to rename my title because that's what we need to. That's what we should probably strive to move towards, is bringing all those silos under one umbrella.
Great, Katya.
Yeah, I think for us in places I've been, it's the same challenge where you're looking at life cycle of a customer in each one of these channels, and it's a little bit of a SI experience in terms of how you look to optimize the programs. And what really comes down to, from what I've seen to be a success, is that breaking down those walls of communication and partnering with the folks in the other teams to bring these programs out to the marketplace to be successful. Right now, Apparel is a smaller company, and so it's easier to do that partnership, but definitely seen that to be a success in other places as well, and that's really how we break down those walls.
Okay, great. We're going to switch a little bit and get really kind of tactical and talk about the concept of like unique identifiers or whatever. How do, Erin, for example, or whomever, or John, Katya, how do you associate, somebody's Twitter handle, for example, with their email address if you're not capturing it, during that preference center or whatever? Sort of, what kind of, approach to, identification are you doing? How are you associating these people with who they are on all these different channels?
So we started very grassroots with this, specifically for Twitter and social media. You always hear people say like, oh, I complained on social media and I got this. The big disconnect there is that when I call on the phone, no one's willing to give me anything. But the moment I tweeted about it, everybody's like, oh yeah, you can have 50% off, absolutely. So I think for us, we started very grassroots. Our social media manager actually follows those people. The moment we listen, we hear something, we go look up their name. You figure out that their Twitter handle is like John Gangbusters Smith, and you're like, all right, maybe their name is John Smith. Do we have a reservation for John Smith? We do? Oh, he says it's his anniversary. Let's put chocolates in his room. It's as simple as that, and it sounds so time-consuming, but imagine the moments those are creating. That's creating just that amazing, delightful moment for someone when they get to their room and there's something there, all because they tweeted about it. They told everybody. They wanted everybody to know. They wanted that to happen. But the moment we found that Twitter handle, we matched that up to his name, it's now saved in his profile. So we know that about him because he's trying to talk to us.
Right. But that's a very manual process.
It's a very manual process.
Anything from an actual sort of technology identification.
So from our CRM standpoint that we're building, it will be able to pull those things in. Our new website actually has the ability to Facebook Connect when you get on there, so we'll be able to pull the data.
Social sign-on, you're saying?
Mm-hmm, social sign-on, absolutely.
One of the things that I've seen work successfully is combining the login between the Twitter and the brands page as a way to link the profiles together, and then you have a great way to see what they're talking about, who are their fans, and to have a CRM solution. But I will say, with Parallels, we have someone who is listening 100% of the time and responding to the comments. And a few years ago, brands didn't even do that. So,
John?
Pretty similar for us. I mean, we use our CRM, and then we use an external data management platform through Adobe that helps find everybody.
Great. So we touched on this a little bit, but I want to come back to, kind of the cross-channel coordination. So say, Erin or John, for example, you've got, you're going to deploy an email program, a direct mail campaign, a radio ad, a social media program or whatever it is. Who's actually driving and coordinating the sort of the cadence and the order and how those different channels are being sort of communicated? Is there a central, sort of person that is sort of driving and prioritizing and say this channel has priority over another one, or it's driven by the buyer, or how does that process actually work?
I think for us, we've gone through our databases, whether it's social, email, et cetera, and found where the overlap is, and that's when it becomes more strategic, is when we find that overlap. Otherwise, calendar-wise, we lay out a calendar together as a group before we set out for the month. We know that our social media followers are not necessarily getting us via email. People have a certain median that they usually want to hear by. Our direct mail folks, if let's say we have a direct or an address for them and their email, we choose to email them unless they've chosen to want to receive mail. And some people do. Some people still like to go to the mailbox and get their mail. And for us, we have two different demographics. We're 50% locals, older skewing, slot machine playing, and then we're 50% what you consider the palms, like real world style, party all night, let's get crazy. Our 50% let's get crazy folks like their social devices. They like their mobile. We can target them on there, but it's a very different message when you're mailing someone who's more of a local slot gamer, skewing older.
Yeah, for us, we have a pretty decent-sized marketing organization. So what we did coming into this last tax season is we had a core team that was responsible for bringing this to life across each marketing kind of discipline. And we went into the, kind of the tax season saying, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things we have to learn this year about how this works for us. And if it was how many contacts someone's going to get, or what offers this, someone who's never used this before needs to see, or someone who tried us once and didn't come back. We had our core kind of test hypotheses that we had to learn, that we said were most important, and we made sure we delivered against it. And basically we set up a core team that was going to do it. And that was their focus.
To me, a lot of this is it's changed. Technology is really driving significant and dramatic change in the marketing department. I was talking to a coworker recently about, if anybody's old enough to remember back in the 90s, the whole re-engineering concept, right? And the idea of how technology, it's not just, you cannot increase productivity or improvements or anything without looking at people, process, and strategy. And ultimately it comes down to change management. To me, marketing is the last sort of corporate department that is being hit, and so I'm wondering that, we've talked a lot about the technology here, sort of the need for these centralized databases and things that go in with that, sort of the coordination, the silos, and everything. Is there a concept in your organizations of what I refer to as change management, of thinking about to speak to a customer with a single kind of view across wherever they're interacting with you? That's not how we've been doing things. Is there some sort of an approach the company or CMO or whatever is taking to kind of drive a change to be customer-led? Does that make sense?
I think so. I think so. So I'll answer a question. I'll see if I answer your question.
He's going to guess.
Yes. A little similar to Amazon is we are extremely data-driven. So if talking to our customers in the same way across all the channels that we talk to them does better than not talking to them the same way in all the channels, we will be talking to all of our customers the same way across all channels. Now, some channels are slightly different, right? So like social, you do talk to someone slightly different or totally different than you're going to an email, but you can still have your kind of same brand promise in terms of what you're promising you're going to deliver. But generally speaking, if we set up tests with the hypothesis of speaking to them consistently is a good thing, and if that comes true, we will be doing it.
I agree. I think that for us, we have been very fortunate to lead that charge, and it's about the experience. And I always say that when we're talking about marketing and people are like, oh, we need to get this email out, what's the experience they're going to have when they open this email? What's the experience they're going to have when they come onto this property? And does that match? Does that match? Because a lot of times what I see in marketing, online, digital, social, may not be the experience I have when I actually get to that product. And so for us, it's all about the customer's journey and their experience. So it goes back to what you said, which is it's about the person.
I think for us, someone yesterday said that email is a conversation of 2 people, and the way that we look at it is it's a continuous vehicle of communication between 2 people that just continues from one channel onto another, like social, onto another, like search. And so, we look at it as, are we delivering that message in a continuous way? And we're having those conversations and are trying to think about what is the hypothesis we're trying to prove, and then going out there and trying it.
So according to my watch, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I want to everybody start thinking about those questions you want to ask. I'm going to want to leave plenty of time for some questions, so we'll kind of wrap up with, I guess, a couple of questions. It'll sort of maybe do them sort of two-parter. And we've touched on this a lot, but to deploy all of this, have there been any additional sort of needs of budget and resources and new team members or anything, or has it just been pretty much sort of reallocation of kind of what you're already doing. So what additional budget resources have you had to sell or to acquire to do all this? And then secondly, and I know, John, this was a key question you wanted to talk about, was sort of how do you get started down this? What's sort of that first step to move from maybe a sort of a siloed communication approach to this sort of omni-cross multi-channel approach?
For how we got started, I touched on a little bit, but basically we had a small win that the organization rallied around, and that makes it a lot easier because then it's the channel who might have gotten the last click and credit for the unit before now see that, well, actually, you're going to get more if we do this together, or as a whole, the business will get more if we do this together. So a small win really got us together, which was really big for us. And the first half of your question was? My memory's not quite what it used to be.
Additional budget resources you need.
Do you have enough people?
We're good size, but still pretty lean. But basically, it became a core priority for us this year. So whereas before they might have been, designing different display tests or new email tests, now it was, all right, well, how are we going to bring this in? So we reallocated resources to focus on what we thought was most important.
I don't have enough resources. I never will. We run a lean team, which, like I said, was unfortunate or fortunate. And then budget-wise, I'm always asking for more money. Don't necessarily get it. However, I won't stop asking. But do I think we need more resources, whether it's time, money, people, whatever it might be? Yes, 100% yes. We absolutely need more of those. Because there are a lot of things when you start to look at the different silos that you're like, oh, we could be doing this, and we could be doing this, and then I need someone to do this, and we don't have that yet, but we're getting there. And then, what was the other part of that question? Sorry about that.
How did you get started?
How'd I get started? All right, well, I think that the word omni, the word multi-channel, the word cross-channel, that's scary. That's scary. And then when you start talking, when you're like, are you omni-channel? Are you omni-channel? No, that's petrifying. You have to sit down and think about your customer. What does your customer want, and where do you want to find them? So it goes back to where are they? Can I reach them there? And what message should I send them? And once you sit down and figure that out, and you figure out what you want them to do, and go backwards from that, you'll start to see that cross-channel and multi-channel will kind of fall into place for you. Because I know that when you're in Las Vegas, I don't want to send you the same message, nor you're not walking around with your PC. So I have to send you a different message on a different device. And by that, it starts there and goes forward.
So
Go ahead, Barney.
I have just one quick question, because it seems like the question that keeps coming back to me, which is, how many people can you actually talk to in your database on a multi-channel, scenario, right? We talk about it kind of this high aspirational kind of way. The challenge I've always seen is, we only have, 2 channel touch points for 5% of our audience, right? How do we get to where we can actually talk to more than 5% of our database across multiple channels, or have you guys been able to do that?
So we actually have a capability to speak to a large portion of our database because we can touch them through the tool that they've installed on the computer. But that's a unique situation compared to coming in from travel.
I'll make them download a tool now. I agree with you. I think one way that you start to see for the multi-channel that they're opening our emails on different devices is the first day I deploy the email, I see a certain amount of opens. And then as it goes on, you see people start to open it more on different devices. So we know that they're saving it on their PC or they're saving it on their phone, and they're opening it later when they're ready to book. We've also started to make it easier to book, whether it's via SMS or whether it's click to call, wherever it might be, and we've seen that also be. But it comes down to, do I have an exact number to say that I'm hitting this much percentage of my database multi? I don't. I honestly don't.
Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge we have, but for us, it's quite a bit different between our different customer segments. So if you're an existing TurboTax user, our match rate's going to be a lot better than for everyone else who's not an existing TurboTax user. But as our tax season goes along, our match rate gets better and better because people open emails or people visit our website and then leave, and a lot of people visit our website. So as our campaigns build, our match rate also builds.
Great. Morgan, why don't we go ahead and open it up to questions? Or comments, experiences? Mr. Frady?
This question's for Erin. Erin, would you rather have a whale with no social media presence or a social media whale who never spent any money?
Thank you, Bob.
So, depends what kind of whale we're talking about, but I do have a large channel of brand advocates that may not spend a lot of money, but they'll fight to the death on social media for us. So I don't even have to defend myself on social media. People are like, oh, I hate the Palms. Other people are like, I love the Palms. I don't know what you're talking about. Get off of this Facebook page. So those are people that may not spend any money, but they'll fight to the death for us. On the other hand of that, yeah, no, I want to make money too. So definitely two different people for me, but they both have some sort of worth, and it's coming back to that conversion. So my conversion for the brand advocate is that they speak highly, they share it with their friends, and my conversion for the other guy is that they, give me all their money.
Down here, Morgan.
But the people online can't hear you. So you're moving where you go.
Amanda Curry from AdConian Direct. So we're actually a multi-channel provider of digital advertising solutions. So we do email. I know we get to work with you, Erin, which is fabulous.
Yeah, we work with you.
So we're doing email, social, display, video, and mobile. And I think what's great is this is an issue we're all dealing with is defining. I haven't even heard omnichannel. I like it. Thank you, Loren, for introducing me to a new term. But I actually just wanted to share a couple great thought leadership pieces with the group in case people had not read them. But Advertising Analytics 2.0 in the Harvard Business Review, excellent, and kind of goes in the swim lane measurement. And another great piece and these are both from this year, 2013, display ad clickers are not your customers from Quantcast. So those are two great pieces that I think that as companies are more coming into the fray and trying to understand it, and also a great way, because Erin, what you were saying, you have trouble getting buy-in from kind of the executive suite, and this is an issue where they're really addressing it at kind of as looking at how you do your expenditures and CMO level, CEO level pieces. So I highly recommend reading them in case anyone, I'm sure most of you probably have, if any of you haven't. So that's just a comment I wanted to add. Thank you so much.
Questions or people have had their own experiences they want to share? No? Quiet group.
It's a long night.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think with that, then we're